Well, Brian, another dramatic day for us in the Premier League. Manchester United snatching victory right at the end. Did they deserve it?
I think it was a bit harsh on Southampton overall. Though Manchester United had good chances in the first half, they didn't come out of particularly creative play by Manchester United. There was more mistakes in the defence by Southampton. Alex McCarthy, and one in particular, he played out to Greenwood. But overall, I suppose, from a 2-0 down situation, Manchester United did very well to pull it out. And you'd have to say Southampton didn't make any great opportunities in the game. Both goals came from set pieces. David De Gea didn't have a save to make in the first half, other than not been able to save the flick-on header from Bednarek into the net and the free kick from Ward-Prowse. And equally, Dean Henderson had one shot to deal with in the second half. It was a very comfortable save from Armstrong, I think it was. But other than that, they were comfortable. Whereas at the other end, McCarthy was very, very busy. So if you analyse it that way, on opportunities created, you could say Manchester United deserved to win it. And then when you look at Cavani's influence on the game coming on as sub and his two brilliant goals, but I suppose you feel a bit sorry for Southampton, given their squad wouldn't have the same depth as Manchester United. They don't have any great stars. They'll still be a selling club if anyone does particularly well for them. And they're missing the main man, Danny Ings, who got 22 goals for them last season.
A couple of big selection talking points then from United's point of view with the two half-time changes. We'll get on to Dean Henderson against David De Gea. But he brought on Edinson Cavani in place of Mason Greenwood. Cavani, 33, probably did his job off the bench, scored the goal, scored the winner, set one up. Is there enough there with Cavani? I think actually he can force his way into that first choice starting 11 for United?
Well, I think if you're Solskjaer, you're looking at it saying, how have my centre forwards done this season? Andy Martial hasn't scored a goal. Mason Greenwood, generally playing to the right, hasn't scored a goal. Rashford is on 2 goals, and he's been the one playing centre forward if Martial hasn't been available. There's no other obvious centre forward in the club of the quality of Cavani. So I think what he's done today and playing the midweek in the Champions League has I think that will make Solskjaer's mind up. That certainly is a midweek match with PSG this week. If he doesn't start in that one, I think he'll start next weekend. West Brom, maybe next. No, not West Brom. What's the league match next week? Anyway, well, I think he'll start the next league game because, what you're looking for in the centre forward, you're looking for someone with a bit of presence that can hold the ball up, that has a good touch, that's confident, that the ball doesn't bounce away from them when it comes into them. But most of all, you're looking for someone who's a predator in the box and who can get you goals. I mean, what he showed today with the 2 finishes, they were not easy finishes. Neither were easy finishes. Both of them, his anticipation and reading of the situation were superb, and signs of all his maturity and experience in his life. The first one, to adjust his body in the way he did, remember, it was a shot from Bruno Fernandes deflected off Bertrand, and he had to react suddenly in that situation, stoop low and guide her into the corner. Now we're diving header, and then the second one to anticipate that Rashford's cross shot. Well, it was probably a cross, that it was going to go to the near post area. Sprinted across the front, got away from his man Bednarek, and another diving header, just superb. So I think he's made the case. Martial hasn't done enough. He frustrates people at times. He's a bit hot and cold, and I think Cavani will be the centre forward and will get a decent go at it now.
What about down the other end then? David De Gea. I don't know how much fault you can put on him for the goal. He obviously picked up the injury. Dean Henderson gets in, finally gets his first Premier League appearance for Manchester United. Has Ole Gunnar Solskjaer a choice to make now, or is De Gea the number one and he stays number one?
Well, he's been very loyal to De Gea for a long time, and I think De Gea has had a decent start to this season. He could have been faulted for the goal against Istanbul Başakşehir during the week in Champions League. In some ways it was quite similar to today's goal, the free kick, and it was over the line. It looked like he might have made the save during the week, but it was over the line. And then this morning, he makes a save and puts her into into the side net, and it was never really a save. I think it was always over the line by the time he got to it. But outside of that, he didn't have a lot to do in the game today. I think it'll come down to whether he is injured or not and how serious it is. Solskjaer might see it as an opportunity now to play Henderson the Champions League match against PSG. And see where it goes from there. I was somewhat surprised that Henderson went back to Manchester United, given the fact he must have enjoyed playing for Sheffield United last year. And was he going back to Manchester United? Was he told, well, you're coming back as competition, but De Gea is still the number one? Or you're coming back and we'll see how it goes. And if we get the opportunity, we'll give you a game. If it was a second one, I think it's very loose. But we'll see now, because there's a decision going to have to be made, whether it's down to injury or not. If it's down to injury, it's an easy decision. If it's not, well, then it's a bigger decision. And Henderson gets his go. He'd be under pressure and be under scrutiny from the off.
So where are Manchester United then? 8 straight away wins in the Premier League. Yet it only moves them up to 7th, 8th after this weekend. They finished 3rd last season. Is that realistic again? Finish 3rd, or actually with a season like this where it is so close, nobody's running away, have they a squad where actually they could put a run together and maybe get themselves into contention?
Well, as today's game go and the result today, I think it might actually get them up fairly high in the table, 3rd or 4th place. So, and they've a match in hand, and where are they overall? Well, where are they? They're one of the clubs that are in contention that could win the league, based on the fact that we're depending on who you are. You're only 8, 9 or 10 games into the season, based on where they are at and how they've played. They've lost 3 home games this season, and that in itself would suggest inconsistency. You look at the team and you try to work out what's the team going to be for the match, and there's no part of the team you could say, well, that's very settled. We'd have to spend a couple of minutes discussing the goalkeeper. You could discuss the full backs in the same situation and say, well, where are they at left back? The right back is playing all the time, Wan-Bissaka, but is he good enough for Manchester United to be a raiding full back that's expected? Are the centre backs good enough? Well, Harry Maguire has found form again. The partnership with Lindelof seems fairly settled, but would it be good enough for them to win the league? Possibly not. The midfield is all over the place. What the best midfield is, we don't know. And what the best front part of the team is, we don't know. We're again discussing the front part of the team now today, because Martial hasn't started well. Greenwood's form has dipped. He's had problems off the pitch. And Rashford has been a bit mixed, but he always puts in a great effort and invention in his play, and he made a contribution there, a great ball in for the winning goal in the end. But he's one that you say, yeah, he always plays. But other than that, you're saying, well, Fernandes plays. But after that, you're not so sure. So there's so many parts of the team that are uncertain. So that's, I think, where United are uncertain. Nothing's definitive. No consistency. But in contention, because the rest of the league is so unpredictable at the moment.
And part of that unpredictability is Liverpool. It's hard to know where to start with yesterday. What was more controversial, the VAR decision at the end, or Jurgen Klopp's post-match interview and his questions about the way the fixtures are falling, Liverpool having to play early on a Saturday after playing Wednesday in the Champions League? On that first, does Klopp have a point, or is everybody not in the exact same scenario?
Look, he's a very interesting character. He's so passionate when he's speaking about things, and he has a lot to say. And I think he has a real point in relation to having to play a 12:30 on the week where they've played on the Wednesday night game, and they've so little time for recovery. I can't understand. So I can understand why the broadcasters want Liverpool at the 12:30 game, because obviously commercially it's such a big tie in terms of world audiences and in its timing in relation to the audience in Asia and America in particular. So I can understand their desire, but from Liverpool's point of view, I do think he has a point in that that's the 3rd time this season that they've had to play at the 12:30 one. A lot of people mightn't feel it doesn't make a lot of difference. I would agree with him that it does make some difference. And, you know, all of these managers are looking at very, very small percentages in gaining an edge against top-class opposition. And that is an edge that other people have in terms of time of recovery and their lessening time or decreasing time for recovery for the teams play Wednesday night. Solskjaer had to go about it recently too. So he's not alone in that. In relation to the VAR, look, you know, we're going to be talking for VAR for a long, long time. I don't like the fact that there are so many interruptions and so many big decisions are coming down to the VAR. I think the authority of the referees has been taken away. I think the referees are now probably getting, at that level, getting into a mindset, well, I always have VAR to rely on. I don't have to make the big decision myself. I don't have to go on my hunch. I don't have to go on my instinct. I can get it checked by VAR, and then if they tell me, I can go and have a look at it on the screen. I can understand his frustration after match, and managers often say some mad things after the match. I mean, look, I've never lived with that type of pressure that he's under managing a Premier League team, and your obligations are probably to do a certain number of media interviews directly after the game. Your head is spinning with the decisions you've had to make in the match and the way the game turned out, and so many VAR decisions went against Liverpool in yesterday's game with the 2 goals disallowed and the 2 penalty kicks as well. So, you know, the frustration of the late goal, the late penalty, that very few people saw a foul in Robertson's kick at Welbeck. But, you know, VAR confirmed that there was a foul if you looked at it forensically. So that's the frustration. So late in the game, he could have got away with a 1-0 win without playing brilliantly. Brighton played quite well. Difficult week, Champions League week, another Champions League week, another player injured to add to the list. I can understand him being hyper and wanting to take on people. I'm sure today he's probably a bit embarrassed with how that went with the reporter after the game. And reading about Klopp in the past, I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a phone call to somebody in BT today and say, look, you know, maybe we'll have that chat again. Because I think he's that sort of fella. I think when he thinks about things after, he doesn't like to be seen to be out of line. He likes to make his case, make an argument. Even his reference to Chris Wilder, I'd say he probably regrets that today too, you know, because Wilder comes across a very good guy that all the other managers like and respect, and while he'd be annoyed that he hasn't gone hook, line and sinker with him on the 5 subs one, I don't think he was right to have a go at him in the media yesterday on that one.
Go on then to finish up. What was the maddest thing Brian Kerr, the manager, ever said in a post-match interview?
I can't remember, but I remember one particular day after a match, we lost the game in Harold's Cross, and as a manager in Pats, and I was a bit annoyed, and I remember saying, well, the pitch was poxy, we were poxy, the ref was poxy, and the result was poxy. And it was the first time I think the word poxy ever appeared in an Irish Times match report the next day, which was done by Jerry Thornley, actually the now rugby correspondent, who was then making his way as the soccer correspondent. But I thought it was an accurate assessment, but not one that I expected to appear in the Irish Times on a Monday morning.
Great stuff, Brian.
Thanks, Nathan.